can't hold on. He's got to sit down.
Time out! Bernie! Time out! Time out! Time! Time is up!
It looks like the clock is about to strike midnight on this Cinderella story, turning average Joes into the proverbial pumpkin.
I sure do like pumpkins, Cotton.
You ain't gonna be able to hit them. They're too good and you suck something off.
Yes, sir, I sure do.
The only shot is for you to get angry.
Roger that. Okay.
All right, hands in. 1, 2, 3, Joes! You gotta get angry. Get angry now!
Gordon Pibb alone facing 5 Cougars. It's all over but the crying. Sayonara, auf Wiedersehen, and goodbye.
Dodgeball!
And let the dodgeball slaughter begin. Good deflection there. Hang on, and another one. 3 balls at once, who knew? Now it's 4-on-1. Pibb is not going down without a fight. That's it! You're kidding me!
He's calling him out.
Now it's 2-on-1. Who would have thought that?
Go, you crazy son of a bitch! Go!
He's on the warpath!
Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle. I am joined by my co-host, Michael Hall. Going to be joined by another guest co-host here, Goody, here soon, if he can get his Zoom link to be able to find. But to recap, the 44-22 loss to Dallas yesterday, as painful it is to say that. And yes, I know my last episode was titled "We Want Dallas," and a lot of people had something to say about it. I'd still do it. No regret, no regrets on my behalf. But to be able to help us deal with this loss of energy, which is the title of tonight's episode, is to bring some energy onto this show. And that is Mr. Michael Phillips of 910 The Fan in Richmond. Thank you for joining us, Michael. How are you doing on this Misery Monday, sir?
It's miserable, man. That's as bad as it's been in the Dan Quinn era, which is not long, but still stinks.
Yeah, it definitely does. And to make matters even worse, because in my personal opinion, like I know a lot of people will talk about the long pass to George Pickens or even the run play that followed that to Javonte Williams before the end of the half. What really tipped the scales for me personally was the Jaden fumble that they scored on, and then immediately right after we throw a pick six. I mean, that is a 14-point swing that really altered the game from there on out. In regards to that, how concerned are you with Jaden's injury, given that it's the opposing hamstring, not the one that he's wearing a brace on?
Yeah, you got 2 bad legs now, so that's not great. That's certainly something we'll have to keep an eye on going forward. And whatever his status is for Monday, you're consoled by the fact that he's not going straight to IR, right? He's hanging around. I think it will alter how he has to play the rest of the year. I don't know that that's a terrible thing. I think you could sell this as this is going to be a year for him to learn how to be a true pocket passer in an environment where, less is on the line, because this isn't a Super Bowl year. We all see that now, but it could be a playoff year, right? It absolutely still could be. Not the way they played against Dallas, but broadly it could be. And I think it's an opportunity for him to learn and grow as a passer, because he's been inaccurate all season long. It is something that I don't think has a lot to do with the legs, may have something to do with the wide receivers, but it's been an issue.
Yeah, it's definitely been an issue. Obviously, going back to last year, it's kind of uncharacteristic just because we saw greatness last year, and it's not been to that level this year. But are you surprised that it's actually gotten like this bad? I know it's a day after a loss. It was on like national stage, and it was to Dallas to make it even worse. So like everyone's just taking that to like, if it was like a 10 out of, like on a scale of 10, everyone's taking it as a 12 right now. But like, I feel like Tuesday, Wednesday, people will start to crank it down to like a 10, maybe like an 8. But are you surprised it got this bad, or like, did you kind of see this on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, you noted it. It's Dallas. It's the rivalry. It's, they lost to Carolina. Geez, I mean, that it just all those storm of things together and the way it happened, and then for Jaden to get hurt. And I mean, yes, it's bad. The sky's falling right now. The sky's not falling forever. If they beat the Chiefs, they're 4-4. We're all talking about playoffs again. I don't think they will, but if they do, yeah, it's a quick bounce back league. We'll all be right back there. I think it's definitely more about like, oh, there's a rebuilding process here. Like, oh, this roster is lacking in major areas right now. Like, we all kind of tried to deceive ourselves into like, they can patch it up. They're the oldest roster, but that's okay. That's veteran experience that's going to carry them. And it's this reality check of no, like there are positions where there just aren't enough NFL caliber players.
Yeah, unfortunately, like a fellow coach of mine said today, he's like, I don't want to hear it. They're all professionals. And credit to him. I wasn't making the injury excuse, of course, but I understand where he's coming from. Now we are joined by the other co-host, Goody. Goody, if you can cook up a question real quick, I'm going to ask one to Michael, and then you could follow me up with it. But honestly, one of the more concerning issues with Washington as of late, Michael, isn't the fact of the injuries and what has come up with them. It's the fact that the running of the football seemed to be the MO of the offense early on this season, and it has hit a brick wall. That was one avenue that against Dallas you could have been able to be successful at. Look, they could run man coverage all day, but they were not very successful in running the football. How big of a concern is that? And do you think that's going to be a continuing aspect of this offense?
Well, what's weird is if Mariota plays Monday, I honestly think it might be different. I think Dallas's plan defensively was dare Jaden Daniels to beat you with his arm and dare those receivers to beat you as well, right? It's not just Jaden. They're not picking on Jaden. They're noticing the weakness here. And the weakness is some guy named Chosen is the wide receiver today. Who knows where he came from? Who knows where he's got parent?
They said the analytics said that we can play a lot of man coverage. I think the analytics were, hey, they don't have Terry, Debo, or Noah.
Yep. I mean, that's 0 for 3. Yeah. And I think that was what they were keying on and what they were playing on. I agree with that. And what do you do with that? Well, you still try to establish the run. You're still trying to get Bill going. He had a couple nice runs, had a couple first down, popped 7 or 8. But just as the game went on, Dallas very much went into that shell of like, all right, Jaden's a little inaccurate. His receivers aren't very good. Zach Ertz dropped 1. I mean, what are you going to do with that? Zach Ertz dropped 1. That frustration of like, man, nothing is going right here in the passing game. Dallas is going to key on that.
You got a question, Goody? You're muted right now.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
There you go.
Here we go.
There we go.
All right. So the main thing that the fan bases and majority of people are saying is like, all right, we understand that things are not going the way that we plan. Your initial reaction would be to make a change, right? Something's not going right, make a change, try to get it right. My question is, and this is not just for me, this is probably from the majority of the fan base, what kind of changes can you make that are not going to turn the franchise upside down in terms of fan base and, everybody's expectations, but more or less, who do you have to bench? Who do you have to move around? Who do you have to make a statement, because these are all professional athletes and they are all paid to do their job. If you're not doing your job, you get set aside and let somebody else do it. Now, how do you make that happen if you're the coaching staff or the franchise to, say, bench Marshawn and put somebody else in his position and let somebody else see what we can do, see what we can perform? Like, how does that actually work? And what takes the coaching staff so long to actually make that adjustment?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing two different options from the fan base. They want Lattimore benched, or they want something to happen to Joe Witt. Either fired, play calling authority taken away, move him from the press box to the sideline, whatever it might be. Get something going there. I'll throw out a third one. Maybe you could, try to reduce Bobby Wagner's snaps. I think he's lost a step this year. I think he could benefit from a reduction in snaps. I am fully team Lattimore, and I'll throw this to you guys after I'm done. I'm team you got to get rid of Lattimore. I think he's a liability. I think he represents everything that's wrong with trusting old players, and especially ones who have lost a step. To me, that's the obvious play. You got to sit him, cut him, whatever it is. That's the move I'd make. I'm not thrilled about the Joe Witt move just because, in the Ron Rivera times, he let Jack Del Rio run a Jack Del Rio defense. It wasn't Ron Rivera calling a defense through Jack Del Rio. He let him do it. This is Joe Witt calling a Dan Quinn defense, I think. This is Dan Quinn's scheme, his style, so even if you get rid of Witt, I don't think the defense fundamentally changes all that much. I think it's still got DQ's stamp and influence all over it. I would cut Wagner snaps, but to me, this starts and ends with Lattimore. You got to do something with him. But what do you guys think? What move would you make?
That's great. I like to hear that. That's awesome.
Me personally, I don't think that Lattimore needs to be benched or cut. My recommendation would be moving Lattimore to safety. Like you said, I've been highly on the aspect of saying that he has lost a step, but he does have size, experience, and knowledge of the game to match up very well on tight ends. And that's an issue for Washington ever since of losing Will Harris. That's been one element that they've kind of lost a little bit. No disrespect to Jeremy Reeves and company, but Jeremy, I view him a lot like Jason Terry, where when he's coming off the bench to help, he's massive. He's a superstar. He provides that electricity. When he's starting, it does kind of run dry a little bit. It gets kind of stale. And I think that because what's happening is, Michael, in my opinion, teams are either focusing on Lattimore or they're focusing on Mikey. And like you said, and Bobby kind of bleeds into that as well. But like you got to try to erase one of those weaknesses. And I think Mikey performs better at outside than he does inside at the current moment. I do think that Noah is not all that bad at slot. So it'd almost be fixing 3 positions in slot, outside corner, and your strong safety matchup against those tight ends. I don't know what Hall would say.
I would say, because it just all kind of depends on Jonathan Jones's health, if he can be there for Monday night against the Chiefs, or even the week after that. I think that's Sunday night against the Seahawks. Then I would, first of all, this upcoming week, I would send a message to the entire team that this is not the standard that we're playing at, and this is not the standard that we're going to play at going forward. So I would bench Marshawn Lattimore. I would make him a kind of a sub-package type of player, rotational type of cornerback for Monday night or whoever going forward. And I would kind of go back to the model that they had last year of put Mikey on the outside, Amos opposite him, Noah I or Jonathan Jones, whoever you see fit in the slot or at safety, whatever it may be. And you just roll the dice and see what happens from there. And like I said, just it's not a hey, we're done with Marshawn Lattimore, but it's more of like a hey, this is, like I said, this is the standard. You're not playing to the standard right now. They did it with Lyman by the second week of the season. Why can't you do it with a guy like Marshawn Lattimore 7-8 weeks into the season?
Man, you could just sense Dan Quinn's frustration after the game. It's got to be better. We've got to do something. You do get the sense a move is coming. You bring up a good point. What happened to Noah Igbenogany, man? You remember there was that Diana Rossini report on cut day that he was being shopped. Like, I liked him last year. I didn't think he was the greatest player in the world, but I thought he was a solid, role player. And all of a sudden, it seems he's really lost favor.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
I think
Noah has been performing, and even though he could be considered a liability, you could live with his liability name tag for the fact that he puts on and he performs. You could see play in and play out when he's being tested, he's performing. You get those flags, but you're getting those flags from your premier players as well. So let's throw somebody else in the mix. Let's see what we can do. Let's mix it up. That's why these people are on the roster.
Everybody's getting a flag. Flags for everybody.
Exactly. Yeah. And what they had 11 for 118 yards yesterday. It definitely seemed like the ref show. But I will say with Noah, it definitely seemed like he was getting picked on in training camp. Whenever the offense was putting up clips, typically number 6 was in coverage. Maybe that has something to do with it, but I will say there's guys who perform better in games than they do at practice. But to wrap this up, Michael, only a couple more questions for you, sir. Really, it's a really easy question. Is the season lost? I'm seeing a lot of pessimism on the Twitter sphere.
Yeah, that's what we do after losses, right? Everybody's the sky's falling. Right. No, I mean, no more than after any other loss. It's just a must-win game. Like, it's a must-win game. If they lose it, they're out of the hunt or they're out of the playoffs, right? 3-4. very much still in it. Not a lot of optimism going into Kansas City. I think that's why everybody's extra depressed. It feels like 3-5's on deck here, but this season could still turn around. And as crazy as it is to think, like they didn't just get bad overnight. A lot of these guys were good last year. This is still Dan Quinn, a guy who has coached up good defenses. This is still Cliff Kingsbury, a guy who can dial up a good offense. Terry will come back eventually, hopefully, maybe Debo will come back. I think your goals are now a little more reasonable. Your goals are now get in the playoffs as opposed to this reel in Philly, win the division kind of thing. I think you temper that a little bit. What does it take to get to 9 and 10 wins? 10's probably the number to make the playoffs. I can circle 7 games for you. They could win the rest of the way. So no, don't throw in the towel yet, but it's okay to be depressed too.
Now, with that being said, Michael, given with the injury to Dorrance Armstrong, which pains me to say, he was on a really big trajectory this season with his sack total. Him being lost this season is big, and obviously already being out with Dietrich Wise, and with the injury to wide receivers. Do you think, given with that, you think the season is not lost? Do you think that Washington should be in the market for trading either a wide receiver or a defensive end?
I mean, you can make a case. You've got Jaden Daniels for 2 more years on the rookie contract. This isn't the year, right?
Right.
Should you trade Daron Payne? Right. I mean, you just go the distance to should you trade Daron Payne? Load up on assets, load up on draft picks, get ready for next year. I don't think they want to send that message to anybody in the room, to Jaden, to even if that's for his long-term benefit. I don't think they want to send that message to Bobby Wagner, to Von Miller, guys who are here to chase a ring this season and probably would check out if they weren't.
Right.
If the team was clearly not chasing that ring this season. I don't think they will. I think last year at the trade deadline, they make the move for Lattimore. I'm not opposed to taking a swing. I think it was a sensible risk. It didn't pan out. This offseason, they go get Tunsil. I think he's done well. I think that one did pan out. I'm not opposed to bringing in a guy, but there's never the talent level you think there is at the trade deadline. So I think stand pat and hope for the best is probably the most likely outcome here.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Kind of a tricky question. I'm not trying to be pessimistic or anything, but for some reason, the fan base, whenever something goes wrong, we have to blame somebody, right? We have to find the issue. Well, for this rough, slow start for Washington this season, who's to blame, Michael?
It's the defense, man. It really is. Jaden has regressed a little bit. I don't think it's fair to pin this on him. He's still had some tremendous runs. He's still shown the burst. I'm not pessimistic long-term on number 5. I think he'll be fine. I think the Terry situation hurt him, set him back. I think the injuries have set him back. I think he'll be fine long-term. But man, you have a defensive coach, right? You have a defensive guy overseeing the thing, and your defense took a step back this year in a big one. I'm looking squarely at the defense when we say, how did this go wrong?
I'm right there with you, Michael. I appreciate everything and you coming on to be able to join us and help us kind of, get rid of this terrible game.
Mike, you got something before I bounce?
I do. This is kind of
Bring it.
nothing to really do with Washington per se.
No, bring it.
More of just a general question. We're talking about the 11 penalties they had yesterday, and obviously you can go back and a couple of those are super, super ridiculously questionable calls. Are we ever going to get a game or a season where we're just not questioning the refs? Is that ever going to be a thing?
Denver, I mean, the dude was running after the ref after the game. Was that Trey
crazy.
Greenlaw? Hello. I mean, I think we gravitate to offensive linemen who love to hold. I don't know, Morgan Moses and now Tunsil, and it just seems to be in the water here. I don't know, but I agree with you. Calls weren't great yesterday. Also wasn't why we lost. I remember, I think it would have been a Jay Gruden game. Remember when we got worked in Carolina? It was like a 40-point loss in Carolina. Jason Hatcher after the game went on that whole spiel about they don't like the name. They want the name to change, so that's why they call all the penalties. That's what it is. It's buddy, you lost by 40. Now is not the time. Now is not the time for this. The time for this is Terry McLaurin and his little thing with the ref where he's lined up off sides on Sunday Night Football in a tight game. Like, that's the moment.
Yeah.
You get worked. That's not the moment.
No, you're absolutely right about that, Michael. You can't really blame the refs for that one. Before you get out of here, just like to plug your social media handle and your show on the radio, sir.
Man, 910 The Fan in Richmond every day, 10 to noon. Michael P. and RVA. I'm still on Twitter. Is everybody still on Twitter? I don't know, but I'm still there. So you can come talk to me there.
We're still on Twitter, Michael.
We're
Have
still
a good
doing
night,
it.
sir. Enjoy your week. Hopefully you could get this out of your mind as much as we're trying to.
Take care, boys.
All right,
Appreciate
man.
it.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Michael Phillips. A goodie. I'm sorry I wasn't able to give you a great introduction with everything that was going on.
No
But
worries.
Goody would join me on Saturday night, thankfully enough to be able to talk about the game with the title "We Want Dallas." I'm not going to outlive that. There were so many people commenting on our show after that when they saw that title. Like, you still want? Did you get what you wanted? Like, shut up, man. Whatever.
You could expect
but
that. You could expect that.
Anybody in the chat, in the YouTube chat, I've seen your comments. We're going to talk about them overall. Just if you have any questions, if you have any other statements you'd like to make aware of everybody, would love to read them out for you guys. But real quick, before we answer questions and announce some of the chat comments, Goody, I want to go to you first. What was your what's your takeaway from the game?
Oof, it was a tough one. It was a tough one to watch. It was, the dominoes started to fall pretty early, against us. Whereas anytime you're kind of digging out of a hole in any sort of game, let alone Dallas week, it's always kind of one of those. Even, the San Diego, LA Chargers game was like that, right? Whereas we got ourselves in a hole early, very early. And it's never fun to live that and also watch it happen to come out on top. But this week we didn't come out on top. We stayed underwater, and we not only stayed underwater, but we went deeper and deeper and deeper. Our offense, our defense, everything just did not look the part. Losing Jaden in the midst of it, fatal. All right, a lot of scare factor in that. I'm optimistic that he will be okay. It's not as significant as it, portrays to be, but that game entirely was just barf in the mouth. You just threw up in your mouth as a Washington fan. You're like, man, this is not us. It's not us. And it's okay because we get to play them twice a year. Right? Next time we play them, it'll probably have some playoff implications on the line. And that's kind of the type of person I am, the type of franchise this is. We can perform when the water's hot. So let's just get it back. We had to swallow the Bears loss in the worst way. It's almost kind of similar to losing to Dallas in the way that we did. But just not a good performance across the board. Offense, defense, special teams. We went to Dallas and we just shit the bed.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I will say, though, there is worse ways to lose, like the Bears did on the Hail Mary with Tyreek Stevenson talking crap to the crowd. That probably is worse. But I will say this. It was a quicksand game. It's a term that I like to use a lot, given by Keanu Reeves in the movie Replacements. Just saying that, you fight to try to claw yourself back, but every time you try to fight, you get your deeper and deeper and deeper, and before you know it, you're in over your head. And that's what it was like, which is unfortunate because Dallas just got lucky. They're not that good, to be honest with you. They just came in with a good game plan, and Washington had no energy. I'm not going to say no energy. The safety was big, and I really think that the trajectory was going to be different if Washington was able to not turn that ball over and Jaden get hurt. I do think that things would have changed, in my personal opinion. But look, that's neither here nor there. It is gone already, but that game unraveled fast. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, it was one of those games where obviously the chips were stacked up against them offensively, obviously with all the injuries, and defensively, we know that even going back to last year, the defense was never going to be the strength of the team. It was always the motor of this team was always going to be the offense and being able to control the clock, the time of possession, maybe win the turnover battle, and just keep the defense on the field as little as possible while Jaden and the offense do their thing and put up points. But it was one of those games where I thought that obviously it was a kind of like a toss-up game, even though that we were down on offense. I thought that it would be a shootout type of game, and I just kind of, even from the beginning of the kickoff, like I know we go down a lot and we kind of fight back, which we started to do. And I had a little bit of, okay, here we go again. Like we started off slow, but we're going to crawl our way back into it. Going into the half, we get that score, we're about to double them up like we did all of last year. I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get a good vibe. And then 35 seconds happens. And literally from that point on, I was like, we don't really have a shot in this game. Like that 35-second stretch kind of literally just, and this hasn't really happened since a couple of years in the Rivera era. It just took all hope out of me. I've never let one drive of a game take the hope out of me, but like that one drive right there just took all hope. I was like, they don't have a shot in this game. Like it's a wrap. And like you said, Jaden getting injured just kind of made it 1,000 times worse. Hopefully it's a day-to-day, week-to-week thing, and it's not that bad. But yeah, it's just one of those. It's just that game was a microcosm of the season. Just when things start to go right, they just take another step back or 2 steps back, and they can never get out of their own way type of thing. And unfortunately, here we are. I don't think the season is completely lost. Again, they have another uphill battle for the next couple games stretch here, but yeah, I mean,
It wasn't so much even Jaden being injured. Like that's something that you can expect, and it's football, and that happens, right? That's always going to be. It's going to take the life out of you, regardless. Your franchise quarterback is out. It was the turnover on that play, and then when the backup Mariota, who has played very well for us, comes into the game and he has that pick six. That for me was the complete turn of the tide. He could have came in and he could have injected that life that Quan Martin had on that Chargers turnover, that fumble, right? Whereas like things are going in this direction, they're trending in this direction, and we're just gonna change the tide unfortunately, with having our backup in and just ready to go and catch them off guard. When Mariota came in and had that pick six, it was just like, man, it almost felt like as if as a backup, as your job, he was not ready. And that's when it really, you could tell Dallas went,
I think
they took it from
what
there.
hurts the most, I think, to a lot of fans is that just reminded everyone of like their entire lives of Redskins games type of thing, where it's like you going into it like, yeah, we got a little bit of uphill battle, but we have a shot. And then 10 minutes into the game, you're like,
Boom.
man, we kind of have no shot in this. Like, oh my God.
So
That's really what it comes down to for a lot of people. Is just like they remind them of the old days, and a lot of people thought we were past all that type of stuff. So it happens. It's football. Teams get blown out. It is what it is. But it just, like I said, it just happens to be Dallas primetime game, and coming off that Bears loss where they literally fumbled the game away. It's just made everything 10 times worse.
yes, I will say this. So like, obviously I'm coaching now, and I've learned a lot just by coaching. And last 2 weeks ago, we went against a team down here, and it was very similar. It just complete disaster. Got not blown out, but it was like 20-0 was the end score. Had multiple kids crying during that game. One of the leaders was crying. I talked to all three of them at separate times. But the last one got me. It was one of our leaders on the team, and it was at the end of the game, and he was just so tired of losing. They haven't won a game in over 2 seasons. Wow. And this was just another example of them just feeling like it was never going to happen sort of thing. And this was a complete just unraveling. And so I spoke to the team after the game, and I just let them know, like, you're not that far away. You got to take practice more serious and everything like that. So what I will say is, like a coach with my own team, obviously is 2 very separate things, pro and middle school football. But when things are unraveling the way that they do, sometimes that is a good thing in order to get things in order. Because this past week, they won their first game in over 2 seasons. Against our arch rival, we won 26-6, and I couldn't tell you how happy the kids were. So sometimes when things are unraveling, that's the best time to be able to pick things back up and put them back together. As much as we want to say doom and gloom, it actually might be something to pull the strings back together and make something beautiful happen. So I just don't like seeing them moping around and the season's over, it's done with, there's no reason, trade all the assets. Like, stop, dude. Football's a crazy sport and cool things can happen. But I just wanted to say some of the things that were submitted in the YouTube channel. Valiance81 says, what a horrible game. The Cowboys wanted it more. Even without our wide receivers, our defense couldn't keep up. I will say this, dude. Darnell Savage, absolutely horrendous game. Felix Trammell said during the game that was a cover 3 on the CeeDee Lamb touchdown. And if that is the case and he's falling for the crosser there, like you cannot trust him in cover 3 anymore. His eye discipline is absolutely horrible. But then Marshawn Lattimore playing the overthrow and then taking out Quan, who's trying to make up on the play, was circus-like. Like, absolutely blows my mind. The Pickens throw down the sideline. Like, I understand, good throw, good catch, but a good corner can make it an impossible catch by punching it, putting your hands in the right location, making sure that you're disrupting things. And he had a hand on the football, but they still completed it. Just overall, the defense, I will agree with you, has really they have not caught their bearings, man. They are treading water in a bad way, and hopefully something changes here. Carlos Rosada says, just curious, I'm not a Commanders fan, but have you heard any news on JD5's injury? And with these 2 injuries he has received, do you play him and risk a worse injury, or do you sit him a few games? What Dan Quinn said in his presser today, Carlos, was that he wasn't overly concerned in a long-term sense with the hamstring. But I will say that Jaden is a obvious competitor. He played through a rib injury last season, did really well with it. Hamstring and the knee brace is something that's going to hinder him in his legs, and you don't want to be having hindrance on the offense based on what your capabilities are. So what I would say is let Jaden get healthy, fully healthy with that hamstring first and foremost, and then have him go out there. I would imagine he's going to be out a week or two. Just
the bright spot in that, the one silver lining in that, I did hear that he requested to be put back into the game last night. So to hear that whisper, whether factual or not, but to hear that is an encouraging sign for everybody. The whole fan base is like, all right, if he was asking the coach to let me go back on the field, then to a very small amount that it wasn't hampering enough for him to be like, I cannot do this, right? So in terms of the longevity of this injury, probably not going to be a large window. Hopefully he does get back quickly within a week. If he plays next week, Monday night, let's go. If not, I'm not worried. But the fact that he was saying, hey, let me get back on the field, and the coaches shut him down, the team shut him down, that's encouraging for me. That little glimpse of knowledge about him asking to be put back on the field is great.
I agree with you. Now, the first question we have submitted in the from text was from the Colonel Hall. He asks, our interior defensive line did a phenomenal job against Dallas. The Cowboys' running game was virtually non-existent between the guards. Credit to Deron Payne and Javon Kinlaw for that. Was there any other bright spot at all in that humiliating loss? I will say, though, he had over 111 rushing yards in the game. And that run before halftime was up the middle, but I appreciate you for trying to bring some bright spots in here, Colonel.
Yeah, I mean, look, the middle of the field wasn't primarily the problem in the run game. Once again, it was the edges, just like in the Bears game, it was the edges. And Deron Payne was the one guy that was playing at the super high level, which is crazy because he was sick coming into the game. And if you looked at his jersey, he was sweating so much in that game. I'm like, man, that man is definitely sweating something out right now. But he was playing his ass off. And so, and then Kinlaw, he's a guy where he's not going to flash unless he's pushing the pocket back and getting after the passer. But I feel like he's a guy that's taking on 2 or 3 blocks at a time and kind of hopefully letting the linebackers run free. But again, like you said, there's guys still running for 100+ yards on us. But as far as who else stood out, I would say Jalen Lane stepped up on offense. He's a guy that a lot of people had high hopes for in the offense and wanted him to step up with all these injuries. And I think he had 3 or 4 catches for like 60 yards or something like that. And I know he had to drop, but again, you're not going to catch every single pass, especially as a fourth-round pick. He's still working at it, still getting better, still getting his reps in. So I would say Jalen Lane's a guy that stuck out to me as in a sea full of badness. He was the one guy that kind of rose to the top and floated.
I would say Jeremy McNichols, for one, was definitely a bright spot in the passing
Yeah.
game and running game. Obviously, he just has a hard way of aggressive way of running in the football when the ball is in his hands, and obviously a very capable and eager pass blocker himself. And he deserves a crap ton of credit. Defensively, Jacob Martin really showed out. That's somebody that, with the injury to Dorrance Armstrong, does give you a glimmer of hope that we could still bring pressure to the quarterback. He was all over the field as well. Sorry, Goody.
No, you're good. You're good. I have to say the wide receiver core in general, right? Because that's what everybody knew going into this week. What to expect. No expectations. I do have a lot of confidence and a lot of faith in the younger guys, the rookies, the second year players. I mean, honestly, Robbie Chosen was the one that was highlighted, and he showed up and he performed. If you think about surefire kind of assets that our offense has, then you can look at Zach Ertz for a couple drops. There was some drops.
Yep.
Not just him, but there was a couple of passes that Jaden was on time with, on point with, and they just dropped. There's no weather conditions to complain about, nothing like that. They were just flat out drops. And when those compile over a game, especially a game when you're backed against a wall, you're gonna put yourself in a situation where you're not trying to win that game. But I would say the wide receiver core stepped up. They did what they could. Everybody knew going into that we were weak in that position, but I feel like those guys showed up and showed out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Now, the next question from the Colonel. Goody, I'll go to you with this one. His question is, our defensive backfield was dreadful yesterday. I wasn't surprised when Marshawn Lattimore and Quan Martin wound up being benched in game. Are these woes fixable, or is Pat Mahomes going to feast on Monday night?
Hey, I mean, listen, it's a week to week league, right? All you can do is build off of your last performance. All you can do is that. The narrative is out. The coaches are aware, the players are aware, the media is aware, the world is aware of what Washington's woes are. Um, I'm a competitor myself. I'm an athlete myself, and if I was listening to the noise, if I was aware of the noise, I would make it my concern to prove it wrong. So everybody in that locker room has the opportunity again to prove them wrong. Unfortunately, we're in this position where they have to have that opportunity to prove somebody wrong instead of just going out and just doing your job. But let's do it again. Let's run it back. We lost to the Bears, lost to the Cowboys. Defense is still not looking good. A lot of just it's like Swiss cheese. There's just so many missing things where professional franchise should be able to have those things in order, right? For at least more than less. And we've been on less than more in terms of being consistent with our play on the field. So big test. You got Mahomes. He's got all his weapons back. They're locked in. I mean, there's been so many times when the Chiefs have not looked the part and they've still managed to pull it out, over injuries, this and that, losing, but still pulling it out on the field, getting that ultimate victory or the result that you want. So why not test yourself as an athlete, as a person in the locker room and say, hey, guess what? We failed. We dropped the ball against the Bears. We dropped the ball against the Cowboys big time. This is another big test. So let's go show the world what we have. They gave us so many primetime games based off of last year's success. So why not take another chance to show them that, all right, let's not write them off just yet. They do have it going right in DC. DQ has this whole program going correct in the right direction. This is a chance, just another chance. That's it. What you do with the chance, what you do with the opportunity, we'll see Monday night. But let's go get it. Let's go get it.
I agree with you. I wish I could say it's easier said than done, that it's fixable. My wife laid down with me last night, and she knew I was pissed off. But she was like, like, what's wrong with them? And I was like, well, to be honest, it seems like every team that they go against is on steroids. It's really hard to explain, but everything that they want to do, they're able to do, and anything that we want to do, we're not able to do. She's like, really? Like, I was like, no, they're not really on steroids, except for Brandon Aubrey. I do think that he needs to be drug tested. That guy's
They
juicing.
need to be tested.
Dude, he's juicing, bro. I could guarantee you.
He might get bit by a spider or something.
Right. But ultimately, Colonel, I do find that there is something in the water. I'm not 100% sure what that is, because you see other teams around the league able to win with decimating injuries everywhere. But with Washington, it just seems like without those certain players, everything falls apart, and you can't even make that real argument on defense, really, which is unfortunate. So we'll see how they come out on Monday night, and we'll see if they're able to get after Pat Mahomes. That is number one, and able to stopping the Chiefs' offense is getting after Pat. And if they're able to get after Pat and fluster him, then yeah, the woes will change. But at this point, they got some freaking weapons, man. I hope Marshawn comes alive if he does play where he is.
Is Pat Mahomes going to carve this defense up? How can you say anything but yes? I mean, they just get Rashee Rice back. That's a
Right.
speed guy. Excuse me. They got Hollywood Brown. That's a speed guy. They got Xavier Worthy. That's a super speed guy. And this defense has shown nothing but to be slow, game in and game out. So, I mean, Goody has a good point where it's a week-to-week league. That's a good thing about football. You have another test week that following week to kind of show that last week wasn't us. We can put a better product on the field. We can kind of right our wrongs from last week and kind of go out and prove the naysayers wrong, whatever they're saying, typing, writing about us in the columns or online. Now's our chance to go out and prove them wrong. But unfortunately, you would think that 7 weeks into the season, people have been talking about them and writing about them and da-da-da-da, and they've just been up and down, up and down, up and down, more downs than ups. And with the Chiefs kind of hitting their stride, getting all their weapons back, and their offense looking like they are hitting their form again, I would say that the only answer to the question would be yes. I hope I'm proven wrong. Like a lot of time, I don't want to be right. I would love to be wrong, but how can you watch what they did to the Raiders? How can you watch what they did the previous week? And how can you watch this defense the last 2 weeks and say any other thing than yes?
Oh my gosh. Come on, have some hope, my man. I will say this. This was submitted by Phil W. on the YouTube. He said, can you all three answer the question? I'll answer it very briefly before we move. We do have other questions to get to. He asks, why JD and Cliff always in shotgun? I would imagine it's Cliff's kind of offense stemming from college, that quick game, allowing the quarterback to make quick, decisive decisions, having his first step be forward, not backward, especially in those kind of handoff option, RPO kind of situations to make things easier. Obviously, being under center will kind of help you in regards to play action, other things like that. The one thing I would like to see clean up out of the shotgun is the play action. It's very easy to kind of see that that ball's not being handed off at times. And so if you like to be able to have that little bit more of deception attributed to the play action, if I'm being honest. But if it's just preference, I'm sure, and if Jaden wanted to be under center more, Cliff would be more than willing to oblige. So that's my personal opinion. I know Cliff has said that many times. He runs what they want to have out there and what's most successful for the team. Now, the next question was submitted by Tony Franchise on Twitter. Goody, he asks, as much as I love Adam Peters, at what point does he get some backlash for how this roster was constructed? We had a lot of money for free agency. It seems as if he went the discount route.
I mean, discount route or not, he's been in the seat for a year and 2 months? Come on. So in terms of Adam Peters, I'm not ready to come for him at all. Like, at all. Based off of what we had prior to him being here, what he had to work with, right? He came in, obviously he showed what he could do in 1 year. Whether that's, whether that's the luck of the draft and having Jaden fall into your lap or not, which I don't think it is. Big part of it, but I don't think that's the total part of it. the roster before he showed up, what were we working with? What was our record? 3-4, whatever. This has only been a year and 2 months. Adam Peters is, I'm sure he's as stressed as we all are because he wants to win just like we want to win, just like the players want to win. But a year and a couple months into this thing, amount of cap space that we have, that's a great thing. That's not something that you just utilize for the time being. That's something that you continue to maneuver over your stay, right? I hope he stays here for the longevity. In terms of coming for him, I have no complaints. He's just building a roster, turning over a roster. Roster turnover does not happen in just a year. You could have a couple of sparks, a couple of flashes. Obviously, yeah, last year was the testament to that because the record flipped over, let alone the roster. But give him some more time. You see him being active. Even if Marshawn Lattimore does not pan out, you cannot be mad at your GM for going to swing for a premier corner in a position that you needed as a team, right? Like you don't know that that's going to happen. And I'm not even at the point I'm still not at the point where I feel like that was a terrible move because ultimately with the caliber of player that he is, whether he's on the back end of his career or in the middle of his career or whatever, it's documented what he can bring. So I'm not even really ready to kind of get the pitchforks out for him on that move, right? That was less than a year ago. November, the second week of November will be like the year mark of that. He came in injured and he had to kind of just get thrown into the fire. He had a full off season, quote unquote, to get back and get in the groove and get healthy. And it's still not looking the part, which I understand. We can see that visibly. But to come for Adam Peters right now, a year and a couple months in, let the man work. I'm very confident in his approach to it because I feel like he has a passion for it. I don't think he's looking to boost his own, status. I think he just has real legit talent in terms of finding players to build a franchise, build a team, and we just got to let that work. We got to let that work.
For me personally, I don't have any issue with Adam Peters or when he gets flack. I don't have any issue with his acquisitions but what I do have an issue with was how he handled the Terry situation. I'm sure Hall is shaking his head saying he knew that was going to happen.
I knew this was, you were waiting to say this.
But I've been saying this all off season. The biggest issue was with having this back and forth pony show with Terry was that you brought in Debo, who has his own injury history. And if Terry was going to miss games because of the contract situation, you could not start out the season slow. You had to hit the ground running and win games. And you're kind of seeing now with Debo being out, with Terry being out due to the injury, and how that was kind of handled. You see what happened. And that's one issue where it's like, I understand you don't want to get bent over a barrel. Of course, nobody's telling you to get bent over a barrel. But you need to have better communication. And so I do think that that's something that needs to be addressed. Like, obviously, you don't want to just pay anybody. But the fact is, Terry was a little bit different in the way that he kind of was on this football team. He wasn't a me guy, never has been. But to see how that was handled and how it kind of forced him to even request a trade was honestly asinine that it even got to that point. I know everyone said that when Cliff came out and said that he hasn't played with the whole roster yet with his whole offense and Terry showed up the next day. I don't think that was towards Terry. I think that was towards Adam saying, you better get my guy in here, better get some more communication because we need him. And you could kind of see now Cliff is still making those comments that they haven't had their full cupboard of plates and cups to be able to work with and have dinner with. And it sucks that it's gotten to that point. But besides that, I think Adam Peters, obviously nobody's perfect, but that was one thing I think that could have been handled better.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lose faith in the guy that flipped around a roster and got us the best season that we had in 30 plus years after 2 months into the job of another off season and then going to his second season in the job. Look, at the end of the day, no GM is going to be 100% on any type of draft picks, any type of free agency additions or subtractions or whatever it may be. Like, even the best in the game, which I hate to say, is Howie Roseman. Everyone's like, oh, Howie would never do this, Howie would never do that. Go back and look at Howie Roseman's track record in the beginning of his career. He got stripped of his power by Jeffrey Lurie in the Eagles organization, and then gave it all to Chip Kelly, and then he got it back, and that's when Howie Roseman's rise and the Eagles' rise really started. So it's like Goody said, he came into the situation. He was kind of literally working with nothing. You mentioned it too, Kyle. He was working with a bare cupboard, and he did patchwork in the first season. Now, if you want to have any type of quarrels with how he constructed the roster this year, it is what it is. And could you say that, hey, we had cap space, we had this and that, and we pretty much just brought back everyone we had from last year? We didn't really make a lot of like key additions. Then I can see where people could be kind of, I guess, upset or want to get the pitchforks out on Adam Peters. But when you're building a roster, you're not really accounting for the injuries. And if you are accounting for injuries, you're not accounting for – no, I'm saying like you're accounting for injury, but you're not accounting for mass injuries to like like a huge chunk of your roster type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like
You should be.
you're not – huh?
You should be. Like, that's always been my point.
I mean, yes,
a
but
product of
you
a
should
good
be.
team
No,
is
you
like
should be, but it
three of your
all that,
starting
but all that
wide
ties
receivers
into
on
like
offense, you can't
all-
really plan for that. You can't
like plan for like Austin Eckler, Debo,
You
Noah Brown,
well,
like
how
four
many?
of your
Look, I don't mean to
being-
beat a dead horse, but I've said this many times on this show. The way as a GM that you build a roster is you expect every single person on your roster starter to be out, to miss time.
And I get that. No,
and
I
you
get
have
what
to
you're
have
saying.
somebody behind them that you're comfortable with playing. Does that make
But
sense?
that's going to be my point where it's like you're supposed to account for like injury and like depth and all that, yes. But when you're starting from literally ground zero because of the entire roster being gutted
You're right.
from the 4 previous years, you
Not
don't
arguing.
really have the ammo to kind of be like, okay, I can afford an injury here, I can afford an injury there. You have to literally hit on 80+% of your draft picks and free agency picks for that to actually kind of pan out in 2 years. So yes, you're supposed to account for injury, but when you're starting from ground zero, it's kind of hard to fill all those holes in a year and some change. But the grander scheme of things is for anyone saying that AP needs to be fired and it's his fault and da.
Somebody
Yes,
saying that?
Yes, of course. People are calling into
Oh
the
my
radio.
gosh,
It's
people are
AP's fault.
crazy.
People on
They've been saying
Twitter.
that
They
for
do not
needs to be
handle
fired.
losses well, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's crazy.
It all comes back to the loss. And if they beat Chicago, which they should have beat Chicago, they're 4-2. Now they're 4-3.
This
People are
loss
not
doesn't
like
feel any. Doesn't
exactly.
feel
People
any
are not
bad,
skies
but
falling. People are not saying this person needs to be fired, that person needs to be fired. Well, this is a crazy fan base, so they probably would be, but they wouldn't be to the extent that it is now. And I just think that it was always going to take, like I said, last year was like a great ride. And like we had everything go our way, especially the injury bug thing. It was always going to take 2.5 to 3 years to like really flip this roster and really kind of get it going in the right direction. And did we have bigger expectations than what we should have coming off of last year? Possibly. But at the same time, they're 3-4, and they still have a chance to right the ship going forward. And if they right the ship, they right the ship somehow, make them to the playoffs, are people going to be calling for AP's job then? Are people going to be criticizing AP then? So it just really comes down to
they've openly said that they
loss.
didn't even expect the success that we had.
Exactly. It comes down to it was a
They did not expect
humiliating
that.
loss.
As us for
And-
fans, we were like gifted a season of like
Yeah.
unforgettable.
Yeah,
Unforgettable. But
it's a humiliating loss, and like you said, people always want blood. People always want a head to roll. So it's just we got to blame somebody. So if you can't point the fingers at Joe Witt, you're pointing the fingers at Dan Quinn. You're pointing the fingers at the defense, AP. Look, after that loss, everyone deserves a little bit of blame. But at the end of the day, it's still a process. You got to trust the process.
Like I said to John Keim on Twitter today, you're not a real fan unless you're screaming for somebody to be fired by week 8. That's the real mark of the fan base of Washington. It's a comfort zone. But to go rapid fire, boys, because my family's almost here. But we have some fan questions in the Discord. I'll ask you. So, where is it? How has the defensive backfield changed since we lost Harris? His thoughts are: has Quan shifted to a different role? Is now playing out of position? Reeves and Butler are good, but are liabilities as full-time players. I agree with that. Samers still allowed them more have targets on their backs. Wholeheartedly agree with that. Personally, I think slot may be more difficult than being an outside corner. Absolutely agree. And Jones has a tender hamstring. no one else is an option.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with those last 3, 4 statements that you said. I would definitely slot is way harder than outside corner. You can work with the boundary on the outside. In the slot, you're just working with the middle of the field. You're working with a lot more shiftier guys. And the slot is really for like mismatches as far as like on a football field. That's where all your mismatches are really supposed to come from. So slot's definitely harder. As far as like the backfield, yeah, I think that obviously Will Harris going out shifted things a little bit. He was a guy that was playing down towards like the line of scrimmage a little bit more in the run game. He was like covering tight ends really well. And then obviously we see once he goes out, guys like Jake Ferguson go off on us and whoever else. And yeah, I mean, and then like you said, Mikey and Lattimore are clearly getting targeted week in and week out by offenses and quarterbacks. So unfortunately, there's maybe a couple of things you can do switch around as far as like shifting guys in and out, but the players are the players at this point. You can't really do much now.
Now, the Will Harris's injury hasn't changed Quan Martin's role whatsoever. He's still playing free safety. They've given that role to Jeremy Reeves. Everything has stayed basically the same. It's just the missed tackles, the miscommunication, and the blunders, to be point blank. And guys are out of position, not playing things correctly, and that's what you get now. But Will Harris was obviously big on the tight ends. And honestly, I think at this point we would all say the tight ends, we would welcome balls being thrown to tight ends because of what wide receivers are doing to us. Now, the next question I was submitted, Goody, this one's for you from Deluxe. Rapid fire. Injuries are a part of the game. Last year, the team was blessed with health, and you could see the team gain chemistry. This year is the opposite. Do you view injuries as a reality or an excuse? Of course, next man up, but next 11 men up can't be ignored, can it?
Yeah, no, that's inevitable, right? You can see teams that have expectations to not even just within themselves, but in the media that are expected to perform at a certain level. When injuries are a factor, injuries are going to be across the board, but when it's the amount of injuries in certain places, especially superstars, right? So there's a lot of layers to that cake in terms of injuries. We got the worst of it right now, right? Our offense was supposed to be one thing. We have three wide receivers, starting wide receivers, like three of our started out. The defense, I mean, we had a couple of new pieces. Some of those new pieces that the team had planned to build for have been out. So not using it as an excuse, but it's inevitable for you to have a fall off. Next man up mentality is huge, right? That's where, superstars are born. Some superstars are born off of next man up mentality. But when you have it in this amount, it's going to be problematic. And getting over that is going to be either tapping in to, those individuals that are next man's up, or getting back to health as soon as possible. But ultimately, yeah, the injuries have been a big issue. Apparently, you wouldn't assume it to be, but it has been an apparent issue, glaring issue. The way Dallas played us yesterday, knowing that our top three receivers were down, they loaded the box. They didn't have any concern about the wide receivers on the perimeter, and they just attacked us, stopped us from running the game, which we've been leading the league in running. And they shut that down. So yeah, the injuries are a problem at this point, considering that the amount of them and the positions that the injuries are in piling up. Yeah, we're pretty much crippled. We're crippled right now.
Yeah, I definitely don't see it as an excuse, Arch. The 49ers are depleted themselves, and they still win football games. A good friend of mine, Mark Mesa, is an Atlanta fan, and he was like, at least you guys didn't lose to like a third-string linebacker and something else. It's like, dude, we just got pummeled by Dallas. I mean, I would rather be in your position than anything. But like, that's a team they went against Atlanta, who's not very injury depleted, and they are able to work them. And with Atlanta, we kind of struggled. And so it's kind of, as much as I want to make the excuse, there's people winning with far worse situations than ours. And that's the kind of issue overall. I'm with you. The season is looking a little squeamish, but I do think that they could get their bearings about them and stop pussyfooting around, feeling sorry for themselves, and go win some football games. Just like the dodgeball thing I put up there on the video and intro. You just got to play angry, man. You got to get angry. Stop making things so even kill. You got to get angry and take your anger on somebody because these people are just waiting. Bears fans are just waiting for us to lose a game so they could say they killed our season. They're just waiting to say Jaden Daniels is a bust. You got to come out and play angry, man. That's what you're proving wrong. Last question from Deluxe. He says, I feel uneasy, can explain most of the issues and see a path to fix. The problem that the season is quickly going by and luck doesn't seem to be turning. Example, Armstrong done for the season. Yeah, you can't expect luck to be there all the time, Arch. Obviously, you'd love to see that luck come around like they did last season, but it's not always going to be the case. There's always going to be hard times and how you respond from them. Said this on Twitter last night. It's time for a players-only meeting, and Bobby Wagner obviously leading that because at this point, the coaches can't do more. Like Joe Witt said last week that he was going to do ball drills to help them create turnovers. Right now, they're not even in position to create turnovers. And those ball drills ultimately forced Lattimore for some reason to come up and take Quan Martin out. The only excuse I have for that play is that Lattimore had CeeDee Lamb on his fantasy team because it makes no damn sense to me why he just took out Quan Martin there. Going for an overthrow of a football when you should have been probably hitting him so he wouldn't catch the football. But, that's neither here nor there. Who am I?
It's called trying to do too much because he's been getting worked. So he's trying to make up for it and do too much, and then he does way too much.
You're absolutely right. But, boys, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Any parting words before we get out of here?
I'll say this. For the people that are the sky is falling and all that, just go back to San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan, with AP was obviously there, under John Lynch. When they finally got good, what was their track record? When they're healthy, they're in the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl. When they're not healthy and they're all injured and got battered and bruised, they're picking in the top 10, 12, 15 picks. That's us right now. So be happy. Next year, if we're healthy, we'll be back in the conference championship game with the Super Bowl.
Yep, just like the dodgeball clip that I uploaded before in the episode. You got to get angry because you suck something awful. And that's the only way we're going to have a chance at this thing is playing angry. And that's how they played yesterday. It was honestly horrendous, but that's not who they are. We know that. And they gotta play angry. You got to see more of that, in my personal opinion. Don't mope around. Be excited for the future. The future's bright here in Washington, regardless of what Bears fans, Eagles fans, all these knuckleheads have to say on Twitter. Don't let it get to you. Don't let it get to you. Goody?
Yeah, I mean, the season is young. We're getting to that middle age, right? Soon. But it's not over. The sky's not falling at all. All we have to do is go out and handle our business. And the best thing about that is we have an opportunity to go and steal a win Monday night, shock the world, get them back on our side. And then we also have the Giants one more time. We have the Eagles twice. And then we have the Cowboys again. So if we can maximize those opportunities that are in front of us, we can change this whole season around, playoffs or not. And we can get people to understand that this team is not laughable. We're gonna bring this. So keep that in mind. We can go still one next week, and we still have the division that we can go and really bring the pound to. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The middle age of the season, it's not time for the colonoscopy just yet, guys. So take a deep breath. You don't need to be scared of any fingers. You know what I'm saying? All right, everybody. We'll see you again on Friday. Thank you, Goody, for coming in, stepping in, helping us out a little bit, giving your input. I really appreciated it.
Thank you for having me, man.
To the
Thank you
show.
for having me.
Hall, as always, I appreciate you and your hoodie, brother. Couldn't find your hat, of course.
Hoodie season.
Absolutely. All right, we'll see you guys again on Friday.
See this masterful artwork behind me that I did?
You did that.
One
a
of them.
date night right there.
The
All
worst
right,
of the two
everybody.
is mine.
There you go. All right, we'll see you guys on Friday. If you made it this far, you're a frickin' champion. Thank you to everybody in the YouTube comments. Thank you, Tony Franchise, the Colonel, Tim Towner, Arch Deluxe. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. We'll see you on Friday. I'm Kyle.
Paul.
Goody.
And we'll see you guys then. Washington football. Woo!
Peace.
What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all